Good morning, council members, staff, and members of the public who might be listening today. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd, and I'd like to call this council meeting to order and begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We'll begin with announcements, acknowledgements, and recognitions. And first up, I have a proclamation to read regarding Indigenous Survivors Day. Whereas the municipality of the District of Lunenburg recognizes the historical injustice endured by Indigenous peoples due to colonization, forced assimilation, and systematic injustice, and whereas Indigenous Survivors Day on June 30th provides an opportunity to acknowledge the resilience, strength, and cultural heritage of Indigenous communities who have preserved through historical traumas, and whereas designating June 30th as Indigenous Survivors Day creates a platform for healing, education, and dialogue, raises awareness about the unique struggles faced by Indigenous peoples, and whereas this observance serves as a solemn reminder of the ongoing challenges faced by Indigenous communities and highlights the importance of supporting their cultural heritage and promoting understanding, and whereas by implementing Indigenous Survivors Day on June 30th, the municipality of the District of Lunenburg demonstrates its commitment to honoring Indigenous survivors, promoting healing, and building more equitable and inclusive communities. Therefore, I, Chastity Vino, Deputy Mayor of the municipality of the District of Lunenburg, do hereby proclaim June 30th to be Indigenous Survivors Day. Are there any other announcements, acknowledgements, or recognitions? Councillor DeLong.
Good morning, thank you. I wanted to recognize a resident of Block House, Lisa Learning, for the national recognition that her company is getting. It was formerly called Atlantic and now it is called PureGuard. She's been working with Nicoletta Ferrone, I don't think I pronounced that last name very well, of Acadia University, and this product has been recognized by Health Canada. I saw this in the news yesterday, and I'm very, very proud of my resident.
Councillor Smith.
I just wanted to make an announcement about the a fundraiser that the Cornwall Volunteer Fire Department does yearly. So on July 4th, they will be hosting their biggest fundraiser of the year. The day starts at 9 a.m. with an indoor yard sale and bake sale organized by the auxiliary. This closes up at 3 p.m. and things shift into their famous chicken barbecue at 3:30. And Chief Mike tells me that they sold 550 meals last year in only a couple hours, so they are prepping for 600 this year, but I would still get there early. It's a delicious meal and a great community event. So yeah, this is just a great way to support an incredibly busy department. Besides the work of responding to fires, just last week they responded quickly to put out a small woods fire before it was able to spread. They have a full training schedule with their mutual aid partners and work with neighborhoods and road associations on safety planning. So also, if you're interested in getting involved, I encourage you to reach out. It's a really busy, vital department.
Any other announcements? Councillor Smith.
I have a conflict of interest for 7.1.
Okay, so we've made note of a conflict of interest, 7.1 for Councillor Smith. Councillor DeLong.
I will also be recusing myself from that item due to a conflict of interest.
We've made note of that as well. I would also like to mention that we have regrets today from Mayor McLean Weil. So we'll move down to approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve that? Moved by Councillor Brooks, seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favor? Agenda is approved as circulated. We have no business arising from the minutes, so we'll go on to awarding of tenders and oh, I skipped approval of the minutes. Let's back up here for a second. We do have one set of minutes to approve, June 9th, 2026. Is there any corrections that need to be made to those minutes? Seeing none, we'll call those minutes approved. Now we'll move on to awarding of tenders, item 7.1, and we will have the counselors that declared a conflict of interest remove themselves from the council table. And this award is award of RFP 2026-01-400, the Hemlock Woolly Adelgid Treatment and Management Service on municipal-owned lands. And we have members of our planning team that's going to bring that forward.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Let me just hold my mic right. Okay. This report before you this morning is a recommendation to award RFP 2026-01-400 for Hemlock Woolly Adelgid Treatment and Management Services on municipally owned lands. And the staff recommendation is that Council award the RFP to Medway Community Forest Cooperative, also referred to as MCFC in short, for the amount of $173,739.76. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Or I can say it in numbers, 173,739.76 excluding HST. The project is focused on protecting hemlock trees on municipally owned lands from the Hemlock Woolly Adelgid, which is an invasive forest pest that threatens eastern hemlock stands in Nova Scotia. Hemlock trees, as you all know, provide important benefits to our municipal parks and natural areas. MODL has already completed inventory and tree tagging work on municipally owned lands, and now the next phase moves the project from inventory into treatment and management, and the successful contractor will confirm the existing information, establish treatment priorities, complete pesticide treatments where appropriate, monitor results, provide GIS compatible records, and provide recommendations for future management. And the RFP focused on 5 municipal sites, Miller Point Peace Park, The Mark, River Ridge Commons, Wiles Lake Park, and Pine Grove Outdoor Play Park. And the goal is to protect priority hemlock trees while ensuring that the pesticide use is safe, appropriate, well documented, and compliant with regulatory requirements and site conditions. For the RFP, we received 3 proposals, and the proponents were Urban Roots, Blue Nose Coastal Action, and Medway Community Forest Cooperative. The evaluation committee reviewed the submissions using the criteria set out in the RFP. The scoring was based on 70 points for technical merit and 30 points for cost. It was evaluated based on the best overall value, with technical considerations carrying the greater weight. As for results, MCFC received the highest total score with 85.16 points out of 100, and Urban Roots received the second highest total score with 77.67 points, and Coastal Action received the third place with 49.41 points. Urban Roots submitted the lowest price and therefore received the full cost score. However, MCFC received a significantly stronger technical score and was ranked first overall. The evaluation committee is recommending MCFC because they provided the strongest overall proposal. They demonstrated the most direct SWA treatment experience, and they provided the clearest understanding of the project sites and the full scope of work. MCFC provided the most complete work plan, and their proposal addressed data review, field validation, water course reassessment where needed, treatment planning, public communication, pesticide treatment, monitoring, GIS management, and in the end, final reporting. They also provided a clear approach to treatment prioritization. So their approach considers infestation levels, site conditions, treatment suitability, water course setbacks, public access, drought conditions, pesticides, application limits, treatment facing, and future treatment needs. Another strength in the MCFC's proposal was also their flexible treatment approach. This includes that along with the use of SciTech basal park applications and IMAJET trunk injections, they also propose to use Starkville products where appropriate. This allows the treatment method to be matched to the site conditions and management objective. Another key strength is that the MCFC's proposal is that the members of their proposed team were directly involved in the original SWA inventory work for the municipal parks. That means they are already familiar with the sites, the tagged trees, the inventory methods, and the existing data. This should support an efficient transition from the inventory phase into the treatment phase. And MCFC also proposed the largest project team and identified several certified pesticide applicators. I believe there were 4 in their proposal. And their experience delivering large-scale SW treatment programs across Nova Scotia provided confidence to the evaluation committee in their ability to complete the work while maintaining quality, safety, and flexibility. Urban Roots, on the other hand, submitted the lowest price proposal and had a practical treatment approach. However, the evaluation committee had less certainty that all the elements of the RFP scope were fully reflected in the quoted amount. The main uncertainties related to pesticide quantity assumptions were unclear, and whether additional pesticide requirements were included or not, and whether the full 2027 mark phase was included or not in their base price. And their monitoring approach, the GIS deliverables and metadata were not clear, and the overall delivery assumptions. Coastal Actions, in comparison, submitted a technically acceptable proposal and demonstrated strong environmental project experience. However, their project proposal was more general and less site-specific, and it also provided less detail on treatment logistics and staffing capacity, and it was also the highest priced submission. For these reasons, MCFC is recommended as the best overall value to the municipality. Although MCFC is not the lowest priced proponent, the higher cost is supported by stronger technical merit, clearer scope coverage, more relevant experience, and greater certainty that the full RFP requirements are included. The RFP recommended award amount is $173,739.76, excluding HST. This is within the approved municipal project budget of $200,000 in the 2026-2027 municipal budget. From a strategic perspective, the project supports 2 of Council's priorities, the quality of life and climate change action. It supports quality of life by helping protect municipal parks, trails, forests, and natural areas that our residents use and value. And it supports climate change action by protecting municipal natural assets and maintaining the healthy forest ecosystems. As for communications, the successful proponent, staff will work with the successful proponent on public communication before and during treatment activities. This will include signage, site notices, and schedule updates where needed. And as for alternatives, the alternatives available to council are to award the contract to another proponent or to direct staff not to award the RFP at this time. However, these alternatives are not recommended because the MCFC received the highest total score and provides the strongest overall value based on evaluation criteria. In conclusion, the evaluation committee recommends the awarding the RFP 2026-01-400 Hemlock Woolly Algae Treatment and Management Services on municipally owned lands to Medway Community Forest Cooperative. Thank you.
Is there any questions on the report before we put a motion on the floor? I see, do you have Councillor Brooks?
Abid, thank you for such a detailed report. Very, very helpful. Just for anyone who's tuning in and listening, could you give us a little bit of information about how the program has been working in the previous years and what results we're already seeing from that so people understand?
For sure. So it has been a number of years that we have been working on this program in partnership. We began working in partnership with Town of Bridgewater. So they already had strike team trained who were working on their municipal parks. So we collaborated with them to complete, first of all, the inventories in our municipal parks. So they spent about, I believe, a year or so in completing the inventory of all of our municipal parks to tag the hemlocks that are there, and they also tag or do the inventory of the infestation levels of the how infested those trees are. And now, as the inventory is complete, now the time comes to treat those inventoried or tagged trees, and that's where we are outsourcing the contract to do the treatments for those identified hemlocks.
Can I just add something right? We were initially aiming to do treatment last year at Miller Point Peace Park because it's such a highly valued park with such a high infestation. But due to the drought, that was no longer feasible. So that's why we're looking into starting this earlier now before this drought situation may continue.
Thanks. I guess my question was, have we seen some successful results of this already in the previous years? Do we know our treatment?
Councillor Moore.
To Deputy Mayor Vino and members of council, I move that Municipal Council award RFP number 2026-01-400 Hemlock Woolly Adelgette Treatment and Management Services on municipal-owned lands to Medway Community Forest Cooperative for $173,739.76, excluding HST.
Motion has been moved by Councillor Moore. Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Reinhardt. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Councillor Smith and Councillor DeLong will return to the council table, and we'll move down to award of RFP 2026-05-400 Wiles Lake Park Community Plan and Conceptual Design, and we have Trudy Payne, Director of Recreation Services, to bring that forward.
Yes, good morning, Deputy Mayor and councillors. The report before you is to look at awarding the RFP, as the Deputy Mayor just said, concerning Wiles Lake Park Community Plan and Conceptual Design. This project was approved in our 2026-2027 capital budget. So $60,000 was included for that. The RFP was advertised in May, and there was a closing date of June. The RFP was posted on the provincial procurement site. We did have a number of firms reach out and ask several questions. However, on the June the 4th closing date, two proposals were received. The intent of this project is to conduct an extensive community consultation process that will help shape a community concept plan for Wiles Lake. Just a little bit of background. Wiles Lake is one of the municipality's regional parks. We have, as council can recall, we have our guideline document around our parks, and we have different categories. Wiles Lake is classified as one of those regional parks that this site was a former DNR depot, for those who might not have been aware, and was traditionally, even when it was a depot, traditionally used as a swimming site. So it was even used as a recreational site when it was DNR. I haven't included it in the report, but because I have a little bit of history with this was, we did an exchange with the province for Wiles Lake for another piece of property on an island, and that's how we came about acquiring Wiles Lake as one of the parks in our municipality. And today the site is primarily used for canoeing, kayaking, picnicking, and swimming. And we also have an agreement in place with local fire departments who do use it as a training site, and they do access the hydrant on the site. So during this they'll definitely be one of the interest groups that the consultant will be working with to make sure that we can keep that aspect of the park in place as we look at reimagining Wiles Lake. The selected consultant will work with council staff, community partners, and interest groups, and the public to develop that long-term vision for the park, including recommendations related to what recreation opportunities could happen there, accessibility improvements, environmental features, and phased implementation options. Again, I don't have this in my report, but as I am remembering things, also included in the budget this year at Wiles Lake is the demolition of the former DNR depot site, and there's a small shed. So in essence, as we go out to the public concerning Wiles Lake, we'd be essentially starting with a clean slate, so it truly could be a reimagining. It also has access to electricity, water, things that our other parks may not have, so it does open options for perhaps wider accessibility opportunities for our parks. 2 proposals were received, as I indicated, by the deadline. We had one from Mills and Wright Landscape Architecture, who is based out of Newfoundland, and Fathom Studio, who is based out of Halifax. The proposals were reviewed and scored using the criteria that was outlined in the RFP. There was staff members from the Recreation Parks and Tourism Department that reviewed the 2 proposals. From a technical score point of view, Mills and Wright came in at 95.5 and Fathom at 89. Mills and Wright bid was $47,500 and Fathom's at $59,120. The remaining funds from the allocated $60,000 budget will be used to support other project-related expenses such as promotions, if we have to rent any room rentals when we're doing the public consultations, refreshments, and if there is any changes to the scope of work, i.e. if we want to add additional public consultation sessions. From a strategic point of view, enhancements to our park systems within the municipality aligns with council's strategic priorities of quality of life and infrastructure upgrades, expansion, and management. Again, the funds was approved in this year's capital budget. From an inclusion, diversity, and equity and accessibility lens, we're definitely looking at ways to improve accessibility in our parks, and that would be one of the features that whoever the consultant would be looking at. How can we make this park usable for everybody? Essentially starting from a clean slate at Wiles Lake. Public engagement is definitely a significant portion of this project and was included in the scope of work, and the consultant has outlined a plan for that. It does fit within the within the Recreation Department's work plan and part of the capital budget. Concerning alternatives, you could choose to award the RFP to an alternative to Fathom, the alternative consultant that put in a bid. Staff are recommending it to be awarded to Mills and Wright, or don't award the RFP at all. But staff are recommending that RFP 2605-400 be awarded to Mills and Wright Landscape Architecture, who received the highest overall score.
And I just want to clarify, I misspoke on your title, Old Habits of calling you Director of Recreation Services. It is in fact Director of Recreation Parks and Tourism, so my apologies for that. We'll open up the floor to questions on the report before putting a motion on the floor. Councillor DeLong.
Thank you. So I'm still getting caught up from being away. I think that the last touch point on this was last October. Was there a similar RFP awarded? Was it the same RFP?
Yeah, I can clarify that, and the CAO can pitch in if I don't remember everything. We did issue an RFP last year for the Mark Reimagining and for Wiles Lake. During the capital budget process, what was recommended in the budget for the Mark was significantly cut down, and so the scope of work for that consultant was drastically altered, and we were looking at other options for Wiles Lake, so the decision was made to end that contract because we didn't do public consultation for the Mark, and so that really changed the scope, and that's why we reissued for Wiles Lake for this year. Is that, okay.
Counselor Smith.
So just a clarification on that. When we approve a tender at council, what's our procedure for that? Because I don't think, it didn't come back. I think what I'm hearing is that we voted on that as a budget vote. But I don't remember us having, like a really full conversation. And at what point do tenders of that amount come back to council for a vote to be withdrawn, or do we not do that?
So the rationale for, go back just one step, the rationale for including both Walls Lake and the Mark in the RFP for the reimagining was to take advantage of the economies of scale. Have one consultant do both pieces and allow for the public engagement to take place for both, so that we had a plan for two capital projects. Council decided in the budget process to reduce the capital amount for the Mark from 10 million to 4. And that reduction meant that we could only achieve replacement of buildings and the building of an accessible playground and some other small features. So it was determined, and council was updated, that staff felt that the engagement with Mills and Wright was no longer required, because the majority of the scope of work that they were asked to do no longer applied because the project became so narrow. So council was updated on staff's decision to terminate the contract, which was done at, I think, partway through. They had done some work, but not a whole lot of work. And then we did an engagement so that we had a design build for the new building, demolition in conjunction with two other, so the Mark demolition, Walls Lake demolition, Center School demolition were combined into one tender, and that was the way that was going forward. So the decision here was to go back to RFP for the Walls Lake, put that out, and included in the RFP was the amount that council has approved tentatively in the budget, so that we didn't get a scope of work that wasn't aligning with the budget that was going with the construction, so that the whole thing was narrow. So that was the process that we went through for the ending the old contract and changing it to go to RFP this year.
And just because it's public record, it was the Glen Group, not Mills and Wright. So I just wanted to,
Yes, the Glen
to
Group.
clarify that. And the RCAO was quite correct. We did bring back the award to Bear Can for the construction. So that would have came back to council for approval as well.
Can I get somebody to bring forward the motion? Counselor Oikle.
To Deputy Mayor Vino and members of council, I move that Municipal Council award RFP 2026-05-400 Community Plan and Conceptual Design for Wilds Lake Park to Mills and Wright Landscape Architecture in the amount of $47,500, excluding HST, and I so move.
Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Counselor Hubley. Discussion on the motion. Counselor Oikle.
I'm so happy that this is going forward. Because not just myself, but I know that previous councilors that have sat in my seat have wanted things to be moving forward. So it has been many, many, many years. And I know that it'll be exciting. It'll be exciting, and I'm just so happy. It's so wonderful. Thank you.
Counselor Smith.
Can I ask another question about the project?
I think as long as it's related to the motion on the floor, then a question would be allowed for that, yes.
As far as Lunenburg County Accessibility Advisory Committee, I think I messed that up, but you know what I'm talking about. it talks about engagement with the community, the public. At what point does this get referred to that advisory committee? And I ask because, you know, the chair of that committee was here just recently and said how few items get referred to the committee. And they're doing some amazing work on accessibility in parks and communicating that. So I think they have a lot to bring forward to this project. So at what point would we be requiring a motion from us to refer that to the committee, or is it already tied into this project?
Yeah, thanks for the question. In the RFP, I did list very specific interest groups that needed to be communicated with, fire departments being one, and the Lunenburg County Accessibility Committee being another. So through that process, they will be engaged maybe even more than once as the concept changes over time with the public engagement. So they were definitely listed, so I don't think we need a reference from council because they would be part. It was built in, very similar when they talked about the benefit of being involved with the saw pit. We would engage them in this process as well.
Yeah, our deputy CAO has something further to add.
Just to add on to process, a motion's not required from council to refer things to the committee. We have adopted as a municipality an approach where we don't advance capital projects without first considering accessibility requirements, and that involves bringing in the coordinator for the regional accessibility function. And we do rely on that staff person's advice as to whether or not they can provide that, or they can bring in stakeholders, or whether or not they'll bring something to the committee. But we do make sure that there's an accessibility review before any capital project is started at the municipality.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. We have no presentations on our agenda today, so up next will be consideration of correspondence. 9.1, Lunenburg County Wheels, request for council representation, and our CAO is going to lead that discussion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So this is a request that we received recently from Lunenburg County Wheels. We had previously had discussions with Lunenburg County Wheels years ago about the possibility of a council appointment to their board. At the time of those discussions, Lunenburg County Wheels were still in the transition and felt that it wasn't the right time to extend an invitation to MODL to appoint a council representative to their board. They have since gotten to the point where they're a mature organization and they get significant funding from the municipality, and they have established a municipal-wide transit service, which we support annually through our budget. This request is supported by staff, and the recommendation is that, coming from staff, is that municipal council refer the request for council representation on the Lunenburg County Wheels Board to the nominating committee for review and recommendation to council. And as I indicated, we think this is a positive step forward so that a representative of MODL will be on the board to continue the municipality's interest in expanding and improving public transit in MODL.
Thank you for that summary. So today, we're not looking to appoint the member, just send it to the nominating committee to officially formulate that process. Can I have somebody bring forward this motion? Councillor DeLong.
To Deputy Mayor and members of council, I move that municipal council refer the request for council representation on the Lunenburg County Wheels Board to the nominating committee for review and recommendation to council.
And a seconder on that motion, seconded by Councillor Brooks. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Up next, we have recommendations from committees and boards, and we have one item from our Policy and Strategy Committee, property tax exemption application for LaHave Coastal Conservation Association. And we have Elena Wenzel, our Director of Finance, to summarize that. We did have discussion on this at Policy and Strategy, but if you could just give a brief recap before we bring this forward, that would be great.
Yes, certainly, Madam Chair, and good morning, Deputy Mayor and Council. So yes, last week we had a discussion about our Policy 12, a council policy to grant a tax exemption for organizations that do work and things that municipal council would otherwise do, things like recreation or community halls, nonprofit organizations essentially is what it is, and this is for land conservation, which is a strategic priority under sustainability for council. So the policy itself does have a renewal term, and it is requires council approval for these tax exemptions. So LaHave Coastal Conservation Association had acquired about 50 properties. There are property taxes associated with them right now of $3,224.39. So they are requesting a tax exemption for that amount.
Can somebody bring forward the motion? Councillor Bell.
To Deputy Mayor Vino and members of council, I move that Municipal Council accept the recommendation of the Policy and Strategy Committee and approve a tax exemption from LaHave Coastal Conservation Association as per Policy 12, tax exemption and reduction for a 3-year renewal term in the amount of $3,224.39 as presented. I so move.
Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Reinhardt. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Up next, we have staff reports, and we'll begin with the Administration Department. Item 11.1.1, Comfort Center Grant Award for St. Barnabas Anglican Church, and our Deputy CEO will summarize this.
Good morning, council members. So we're here to speak about a grant award this morning. Just as a little bit of background, comfort centers play a really important role in our regional emergency response. So comfort centers are run by community halls. They're independent from the municipalities and the REMO organization. So they make the decision themselves if they'd like to activate. We have MOUs with formally established comfort centers so that they can identify what services they provide. And essentially all we ask of them is that they communicate with us when they're opening so that we can help publicize that. We do occasionally ask comfort centers to open up if we see a need and they haven't identified it themselves in advance. But they do, because they provide all of the operating labor and expenses, they have the discretion to say yay or nay to that request. This municipality is somewhat different than other municipalities in the REMO organization in that we provide financial assistance to incentivize comfort centers getting established. So we have a grant annually. We have had $14,000 in that grant. It has been somewhat undersubscribed in most recent years. So we didn't receive any applications by the March 1st deadline. However, we had been in conversations with St. Barnabas Church down in Blue Rocks because there was a comfort center in Stonehurst, just down the road, but they determined that they weren't able to continue to operate it, and they had offered their generator, which we had funded several years ago, to the neighboring church, which had somewhat better facilities in any case and a slightly more active congregation. So we were hopeful to see this come forward. They have indicated that the generator's been transferred and they're doing the electrical work. So they have asked for funding. The stipulation or the conditions of the grant are such that your policy allows you to award up to 66% of eligible costs. So it's a small amount as opposed to the maximum of $8,000, because I don't have enough expenses to justify that under your policy. So that's why your figure there is $3,461, and staff are recommending we proceed with this. Having a comfort center in Blue Rocks is really important, given that there is only one road in and out of that community, and it is, on occasion, depending on the direction of the wind and the storms, susceptible to washout or getting blockage from having beach stones chucked up across the road. So staff are certainly supportive of this funding application.
And as counselor for the area, I certainly can appreciate the comments that our deputy CEO made regarding washouts. It's a great location for this center, and it's in the center of many roads and within walking distance to a lot of communities down there. Would somebody bring forward this motion? Oh, do we have a question first? Counselor Smith.
I'm really interested in this fund, and I wonder if the deputy CAO could just talk a little bit about what is eligible, and in particular, with drought being a huge consideration lately, is there anything in the policy that allows for upgrades related to drought response?
The short answer is no. The slightly longer answer is the fund was set up specifically to address alternative power. So electrical costs, purchase of a generator, installation costs. It specifically excludes other haul costs. However, that's a policy of council. So that is a lever that council could pull if you wanted to adjust the scope of it. But at this time, no other costs are eligible.
Just as a quick follow-up, just seeing what Chester municipality is doing in terms of providing some halls with assistance to set up community wells. It is an interesting thing that we might consider as part of this program for comfort centers, that halls could set up an outdoor tap. Not a huge expense from what I see from Chester. It's like around $10,000 to set up that outdoor tap. But drought is one of the emergencies that we're dealing with all the time, and I think some of our fire departments, for example, Walden, already provides a tap outside, but it might be something that we consider in expanding the policy at some point. But otherwise, just very supportive of the project at Barnabas Anglican Church.
Would somebody bring forward this motion? Counselor Hubley.
To Deputy Mayor Vino and members of council, I move that Municipal Council award a Comfort Center grant to St. Barnabas Anglican Church, 1396 Blue Rocks Road, Blue Rocks, in the amount of $3,461.62, and I so move.
Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Counselor Brooks. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. The next item under staff reports falls under the Planning and Development Department. We have the NSFM Coastal Planning Support Program Funding Award, and we have Ella Gindi, Planner 2, to bring forward this discussion.
Good morning, Council. MODL, with partnering municipalities, have been awarded $156,000 in funding through the Nova Scotia Federations of Municipalities through the Coastal Planning Support Program. MODL acted as a lead applicant and project coordinator for the funding application. The project was developed in response to a shared need among municipalities for additional guidance and education related to coastal erosion and the province's coastal erosion risk factor assessment methodology that is listed in the report. So while the province did release the SERFA report, the associated tool has not yet been released. As a result, municipalities and qualified professionals have been applying the methodology with limited guidance, which can create inconsistencies in how coastal erosion assessments have been prepared and reviewed. The funding will support the development of practical guidance documents, educational resources, workshops, and training materials to help municipalities, consultants, and industry professionals to apply the SERFA methodology more consistently and effectively. And the project's funding will be administered directly by NSFM, and the participating municipalities will work together to prepare our request for proposals and select consultants, while NSFM will manage the funding and consultant payments. As such, there is no direct financial liability to MODL and associated with that project. And we'll continue to work on that and provide feedback as we go.
There's no motion with this report. It was brought forward for information, but if there is any questions from council members, I'm sure Ella would be happy to address them at this time. Councillor Oigel.
So I'm just wondering if the information that is collected and put together in the toolkit, it's kind of like a toolkit for people, right? Will it be given to other municipalities as well as the provincial government?
Correct. The idea here is to act as a leader in coastal protection regulations, as MODL already is, especially in this province. This information will be used by us, but we would like to share it with other municipalities to be able to design better coastal protection regulations to their own municipalities as well.
Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you very much for bringing that forward. Up next, we have mayor's, deputy mayor's, councillor matters, and we'll begin with item 12.1, the LC update, and our chair, Councillor Hubley, will bring that forward.
Thank you. The following are the highlights from the LCLC meeting held on June 18th, 2026. Michael Graves addressed the board regarding the decision to stop all free passes. He has asked that the motion be rescinded. He feels our decision will deny access to residents who may not have the means to access the facility and will have huge impact on the community. This topic will be added to the July agenda for discussion. The board discussed the renewal contract. Renewal is helping Nova Scotians become the world leader in clean energy transition. This gives us a 1% increase over 20 years, helping us manage costs with greater predictability. The board passed a motion giving the GM direction to sign the contract. Last month, we reviewed the doubtful accounts for QuickBooks system. This month, we reviewed the doubtful accounts for the registration software Fusion. Several invoices have remained unpaid for various reasons. The balances are made up of 61 invoices of individual insignificant amounts. Invoices are prior to March of 2025. A motion was passed to approve an increase to the allowance for doubtful accounts in the amount of $4,814.40. A motion was passed to proceed with alternative procurement and engage Aqua Plans to provide architectural design and contract administration services for the aquatic tile replacement project. We'll have a better idea of the timeline for this project after this phase. The financial controller position for the LCLC closed last week with 20 applicants. The applicants are being reviewed. This is a much needed position. The recent changes at MJSB have resulted in the LCLC not getting their financials completed in a timely manner. This new position will support these processes. The year-end audit is scheduled for July 20th, 2026. After the audit is complete, we'll have financial information to share with council. And that concludes my report.
Are there any questions for Councillor Hubley? Councillor Smith.
Can you just give a bit of background on the free passes being proposed to be canceled and Michael Graves' concern?
We reported on this at the time, I believe. Deputy Mayor Vino did. There were so many passes out there and they were given out like willy-nilly. There was previously no record. The amount of passes that were coming in were like kind of unbelievable. And to get a handle on all that from the previous managers, because we've had a few, the decision was made that if they wanted free passes, like in this case, United Way, that they could adjust councils. Now, Michael Graves had a good argument, and we are going to discuss it at the next meeting.
Yeah. And just on to that, there was no consistency in how many passes were being given out a year, what organizations they were going to. And I don't think I'm misspeaking when I say that the board wanted to have a better handle on what was out there instead of just receiving these passes. So really to reevaluate that whole process, we had to take a step back, and that garnered some discussion from folks like Michael Graves. But the idea was to get a better handle on the process and what was being done, because the numbers were astronomical of these passes coming in.
I can just add to that, that recently someone came in with 30 passes that they said their neighbor gave them. And that is just a tip of what has been happening there in the past.
Any other questions for Councillor Hubley? No? Just a quick Deputy Mayor's update. I've been filling in while the mayor has been away with check signings, agenda briefings, and then personally speaking, receiving increased amounts of phone calls and emails on the upcoming public hearing, as I'm sure there might be other council members who are hearing that as well. So that's been the update for me. This concludes our regular agenda for today. We do have one in-camera item, so I will call for a motion to go in camera. Moved by Councillor Hubley, seconded by Councillor DeLong. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is approved. We are now in camera. Welcome back. Following our in-camera discussion, we do have one motion to bring forward under land negotiations, section 22(2)A of the MGA. And can I have somebody bring forward that motion? Councillor Burns.
To Deputy Mayor Vino and members of council, I move that Municipal Council approve the sale of PID 607-42368, otherwise known as Lot 100, and 607-42376, otherwise known as Lot 101, to Homeworks Roofing and Renovations Limited on the terms presented during the in-camera session of council, and authorize the CAO to prepare and execute the documents necessary to effect the conveyance of the properties.
And is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Smith. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. This concludes our council meeting for Tuesday, June 23rd, and I'll now call this meeting adjourned.